Welcome to another episode of 31 in 31, a month of conversations with Proverbs 31 women. Today's conversation shines a light on what it looks like to answer God's call to start something new. I'm joined by Jeannette Lumley, who, along with her husband Logan, founded a ministry in their church called Better Together. This ministry is designed to support married couples, especially those in the busy season of raising young children, through scripture-based studies, prayer, and fellowship opportunities. Jeannette shares how God stirred their hearts to begin this ministry, how prayer shaped their journey, and the beautiful ways they've seen Him move in the lives of families. She also talks about her Hispanic heritage and how her bilingual skills have opened doors for her to serve as the hands and feet of Christ in rural Northwest Tennessee. And with their daughters Eden and Amelia already helping serve in their church's James 1 ministry by baking cookies and preparing meals, Jeannette's story is one of faith, family, and modeling servanthood for the next generation. This is an inspiring conversation about obedience, family ministry, and faithfully stepping into the roles God calls us to. Join me now for a virtual conversation with Jeannette Lumley. Good morning, Jeannette.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for joining us virtually for an episode of 31 and 31. I'm super excited for us to talk a little bit today about a ministry that you and your husband felt called to start. But before we do that, just tell us a little bit about Jeannette and the Lumley family.
My name is Jeannette. I am married to Logan. We've been married for 11 years. We've got two daughters. We have Eden, who just turned 8, and Amelia, who will be 3 in December. So, we started the ministry out of a personal need is the best way to put it. So, a little backstory, we had been going to church and very involved in a church that we were at previously, and we had some things happen and we left. And Logan and I kind of went through this journey of not really having a home, so to speak, in a church where we wanted to be. And then we stumbled across Finley. And as soon as we walked in, we knew that that's where God had called us to be. And it so happened our church normally does an annual ministry survey that they fill out, and we had filled out where we wanted to plug in, and we felt that we needed that community of individuals in our lives. And so we put that on there like, hey, how can we get plugged in? How can we which way do we go? Is there a Bible group, a Bible study group? What can we do?
That's music to a pastor's ear.
Well,
if someone says, hey, where can you use me?
That's right. Well, and our pastor reached out and was like, well, I'm glad that you guys want to get plugged in, but there's actually a need for this in our church right now. So he asked us if we would be interested in leading that. And of course, we took some time and prayed about it because we were looking for what we wanted. Selfishly, we wanted a group, right, for us to be a part of. And the Lord was like, no, this is on your heart, so you need to do it. So that's where that kind of came from. So we prayed about it, and we both felt God saying like that's where He wanted us to serve and be plugged in. And so we went back to our pastor and was like, okay, the Lord said this is for us to do, so here we are, use us. And that's where it became.
Well, good. And that was one thing I was going to ask you about the development of Better Together. Sometimes God gives us a calling that's kind of an urgent, I need you to do it now kind of thing. So I was going to ask, was this development of the Better Together ministry for you and Logan specifically, was it a stirring? And it sounds like it was a stirring kind of calling where you were letting God know you were willing, to serve Him in some way, but you just needed direction, on what it was. And so that's fantastic. So tell us about Better Together. What is Better Together?
So Better Together is a marriage ministry that we have at Finley Baptist Church. It is honestly, the name kind of best describes what it is. So Better Together has a two meaning. better together being as in husband and wife, we are better together as a unit when we're working as one towards the same goal. And also being together with other like-minded individuals. So bringing other couples together. We do different things. So we'll have a quarterly date night. So we'll do just obviously husband and wife couples only, where we go out and just get together and fellowship with one another. We also do Bible study lessons. It's more topic based. We don't do a study in case anyone can't make one. We don't want them to feel like they can't come to another one.
So it's just an independent. This month's study won't have anything necessarily to do with next month's study. So
right, absolutely, yeah. So it's just a topic based, and we'll pick a topic or we'll poll the group and ask something that's on their heart. So let's say it's about communication. Mm-hmm. So we'll just do a topic based, and we'll do it. Obviously, it's a biblically based study, and then sometimes we'll do outings like family outings or family events that we do. An opportunity for the kids to also get together with one another, and also get to see all of the couples that are together and have that example. Right. So that's what Better Together is.
And so it's a marriage focused, and mm-hmm. there really aren't age limits. I mean, because all people, there are lots of married people mm-hmm. of all ages, but your topics do generally focus more toward families raising young children, mm-hmm. but the fellowships and all are open, to any age.
Yeah. So so even our some of our topics aren't necessarily, obviously there's a mixture. We've had some that were like parenting specific, but we've also had some, like I said, communication, or I think we're having a couple that we're talking about like finances and things like that. So they're not specific to an age group, but our age group has tended to be the younger families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. That's good. And then and it does. You don't have to be coming to Family Baptist Church as your church home. That you could be in another church, mm-hmm. Not in a church at all.
Right.
What a great way to get plugged in to a church family too as well. Is something like this. It could be a little less intimidating than coming to Sunday morning and then diving mm-hmm. into a church that way. And so you all are open, to just anybody. And they can find out about Better Together meetings through social media.
Mm-hmm. So we share it on the church's Facebook page. So that's where we have most of our events posted. And then we do have a team reach that we utilize. If you reach out to the church's page, they'll send you the code to get in. And that's mostly, we'll do a lot of polls on there because we don't want it to be just ours. Like, and we want everyone to have an input. So we'll ask what topics or dates or events work best for the group. So
good. Well, good. That's super exciting. And I know it's been a big blessing to Family Baptist Church and to several others that are coming, that aren't from Family Baptist Church too. And so thank you all for answering that call. Let's switch now to just Jeannette and Logan. Let's talk about your faith journey. And for you and Logan in particular together, he's not here to defend himself, so we can just say whatever. You can say whatever, right? You can put words in his mouth. But the beautiful girls, who all are really, as an outsider observing others, what I see in you and Logan is your dedication to prayer and the importance of prayer. Will you speak for just a little bit about how you all feel about the importance of prayer, how you're instilling that in the girls, and what ways in your family unit, you are focusing on faith?
So obviously we really do think prayer is the most important. That's how we communicate with Jesus and with God, that's our communication method. I think that we've both seen in our life, in our married life together, and I'm individually, like you said, he's not here, so I can't speak for him individually, but for myself, the times that we have done things or made decisions without praying first tends to be when we have the most strife, because we feel the most disconnected from the calling that God has for our life. So that's just kind of been evident in some of the decisions and things that we've done. And so we know being prayerful about anything that we do or a decision that we're going to make is ultimately going to align us with God's plan for our life. I was fortunate that growing up, I witnessed that from my mom. So my mom was I have very clear memories of my mom, like doing her Bible studies and praying over us and praying in the evenings before we went to bed, praying like she would have us hold hands and pray together before we went to bed. So having that example and seeing how those prayers have been answered in my life and the blessings that have come from that has really just, for me personally, just shown like the importance of it and what it can do. Because I think sometimes we think, oh, we're praying and it's like an empty, we're putting it out there, but it's not necessarily anything. But being able to see, here's the prayers that have been prayed and here's how they've been answered. Like God really is listening and God really is working.
And he does answer. And sometimes his answer is, not yet. You're not ready for you to have that just yet.
Right.
Sometimes his answer is just no, and that's okay too. That's okay too. And we're just
like, I've got something better. Like, why do you want this? I've got something better.
Have you thought about this instead? Right. That's kind of what happened with the 31 and 31 when I was kind of praying over, what direction am I going next, God? Where do you want this, the podcast in and of itself, the Authentically You podcast to go? And I was kind of at do I even just keep doing this? What do we do? What are we doing, God? What are we doing? And then I really think that's what it was. It was like, have you thought about this? How about you think about this? And that's kind of where it went from there. And so talk for just a second, if you are willing, about a testimony in your marriage. And this would speak to younger married couples, or you all have been 11 years now, which is wonderful. That beats the statistic, unfortunately, but that's great. But early in your marriage, did you and Logan come into your marriage as Christians? You obviously were raised in Christian home. Was faith a foundation in your marriage from the beginning?
Yeah, I think that's really been the strong foundation. How in the Bible it tells us to build your foundation. That has been the pillar for us through this past 11 years. So before we got married, we went through premarital counseling, and I highly recommend that for anybody that's dating, looking to get married, or even like if you've already been married, like post-marriage counseling. It is great. What we did was a pretty lengthy, like several weeks or whatever that we had done. And I really think that all the tools, it was a Christian-based one. So all the tools that we were given through that have really been just pillars and foundations for us in the last 11 years. Our first year of marriage was, we had some terrible fights. Like it wasn't all, like they say the honeymoon phase, or like it was not that. Like we had a lot, we struggled a lot our first year, and being able to pull back on those tools that we were given really just helped our conversations. And when we would have, disputes, like how do we handle this and how do we go about this in a manner that both of us are being heard and we're moving towards a goal of moving forward instead of holding on to bitterness or whatever. So and then also we were surrounded by a lot of other individuals that were also Christians and had strong marriages, or other groups and things, and that really helped too, because he would have people that he could go to and talk to whenever he was, whenever we would have disputes, and I would have people that I would go to and talk to, and we both knew that those conversations were going to come from a place that was like a faith-based conversation. It wasn't going to just be, oh, well, if he's getting on your nerves, and just, ignore him, or like it was, it was going to be biblically based advice that we were going to get.
That's good advice. It's very good advice to young, newly married, or in the infant stages of marriage, which I think is usually 5 years, really, until you've learned to really walk solid on your feet in a marriage. And I think it's good to point out too, I'm glad you pointed that out, that even the strongest Christian marriages are not just roses all the time. It's just, so, and especially in those early years of marriage, you're not only learning a new personality, you're sharing space with a new personality, and It's just a lot.
Hmm.
It's just a lot. So thanks for pointing that out. Those are really good points. You touched on your mom and
Hmm.
um, always remembering to see her praying over you. Tell us a little bit about your family, though. You
Yeah.
actually come from a Hispanic background.
Yes.
Where you tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So I was born in Mexico and we moved here when I was 6 years old. So my whole family, myself included, we are Mexican. So we do have Hispanic descent. And one of the things that is very important in Hispanic culture is family. And so, I mean, I remember growing up in high school. My family always gets together, and there's a game that they play. It's similar to like bingo, but it's a little bit different. And my family would get together every Friday night, every Saturday night. We would all go to my grandparents' house, all my aunts and uncles, all my cousins. We would all get together and we would just play games, like my whole family unit. And I did that through high school, like what high school kids hanging out with their aunts and uncles and grandparents. But that's just part of what um, our culture values is family and unity and things like that. So I think that also plays into this ministry, and my heart for it is that we value being together and having your family unit together. And also, like what the other thing that the Lord uses it in the Bible as a example of Jesus and God in the church is marriage. Like he uses that a lot. So the enemy attacks that a lot because it's how we view our relationship with God. So, but yeah, so we just really value family time and being together and making those memories and making time with each other. And so that kind of plays into how I raise the girls and how I
Yeah,
feel about
yeah,
what we
yeah.
do. So,
Yeah. One thing I admire about you and Logan as well too, and it's something super simple, is even just your notifications on your phone. I'm a
mhm,
night owl, and I've been
mhm,
guilty of needing to reach out to you for something church related, after 8 o'clock, and I'll get a bounce back message that says Jeanette's got her notifications,
yeah,
silenced at this point, and then I'm like, oh, that is so great that she's
mhm,
focused on family time, that there's a
mhm.
limit of outside world coming into your family, and that you're using the technology and the tools available to shut out as much as you can. And I think that's very commendable, and I think it's a really good practice that others should consider as
That definitely came from a little bit of guilt from my
well.
oldest, because sometimes she would be like, "You guys are always on your phone," or "We want to play this," and you guys. And for us, I think we're guilty. Like both of us, work full time, so we come home and we're making dinner and we sit down and it's okay. We want to decompress, but us decompressing and them doing their own thing, like we're not really enjoying that time as a family. So yeah, it really came out of a place of guilt from her. And so I created a block on my phone. Like you can, create different blocks, and I have a family block. And so my phone notifications will turn off in the evenings until we're done with bedtime, and then bedtime routine stuff. And when I lay
Yeah,
down, then I can kind of go through and look at some of those
yeah,
notifications. But yeah, it came out of a place of guilt from,
but
she's
that's
like, "You
good.
guys are always on your phone."
Yeah, out of the mouths of babes, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
But you know
Yeah.
what? You'll get to remind her of that in a few years when she's a teenager and has her own phone. You'll get
Oh yeah.
you'll get to say, "You're always on your phone."
That's right. That's right.
Let's talk about the girls and the ways that you are instilling the importance. I see that you all are instilling the importance of service
Hmm.
in the girls, and let's talk about how you have those conversations with the girls.
Yeah. So I think the Lord has really blessed us a lot with the things that we have and the things that we've been given, and also having seen, I guess, my parents coming here with nothing and them, working towards what they have, and us being in the position that we're in. I see that the girls are blessed in the things that the Lord has given us. So I try to be intentional about what are some of the ways that they can learn. Like not everyone is fortunate to have these things that we have, and we need to be grateful for them. and we can also use these things to give back. And so, so one of the ways that Logan had actually mentioned when we were started doing the James 1 ministry at the church, some of the things that we could bring were things that they could do. And so we started having them sign up for things that they could make. So if they wanted to make macaroni to bring for James 1, or cookies, or whatever it was, green beans, something that was within their wheelhouse that they could participate in, we would do that. Or I don't know, just little things that we can involve them in. I remember having conversations with Eden. So we went to her birthday and our anniversary were a couple of days apart. And we went to New Orleans for that week of our anniversary and her birthday. And I remember we were there and we would see a lot of people that have still been displaced after Katrina, and a lot of homelessness that we saw that she might not have been exposed to prior to that. And so we were able to have those conversations with her about, people having situations that either are outside of their control or within their control, but they're in these circumstances, and how it's our place not to come and judge why they're there or what happened to them, but what can we do to help? And so we had that conversation and we moved on. And then a couple of days, I think we were walking somewhere and there was these little kids that were playing drums. And that she very much was like, hey, can I give them some money? Like out of her own, she had her own little spending money that she had. And I was like, yeah. And so she went and handed them some money and moved on. And so I think being realistic with them and having those conversations, even making them obviously sometimes age appropriate for whatever age they're in, but just letting them know, like, these are things that happen in the world and God has called us to help and be a part of and love on people. And what are ways that we can do that, whether that's physically, handing them money or buying something for them or providing a meal for them, or is it praying over them and being there, support for them, talking to them, whatever it is.
Right.
So just having those conversations.
And I love the way that they serve in our James 1 ministry. We always know when we put mac and cheese on the menu, who's going to be making the mac and cheese. And the recipients of the James 1 ministry that receive those meals each week, they love it too. And so that's great. So we really appreciate them doing that. As we close each episode of especially the 31 and 31 series, I ask the guests to share a word of encouragement, and then we'll close with your favorite scripture. And so on the word of encouragement today, I think it's two. I think I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
Let's talk first to that person who, like you and Logan, kind of had a stirring, knowing that you were needing to do something and that you were needing a connection of some kind. Let's talk to that person who does have an idea for a ministry or a service or something, something that would better other people, and they're just not pulling the trigger. What word of encouragement do you have to that person?
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, what I've noticed in my experience is a lot of time if something comes like that nudge, it truly is God saying, this is for you to do. This is what I have for you in your life. So if you have something where you're like, man, I really wish our church had, for example, us, a marriage ministry that we could get plugged into, sometimes that's God asking you to step out and lead it, because there are more than likely other people that are feeling that same way about wishing or needing that need, but someone's got to meet that need, right? And when you're in that situation, I think having people that are also Christians and walking in that same path that you can go to and say, hey, this is what I have. Can you pray over me? God will give you those confirmations, whether it's through that person or through a conversation. Our example for the Better Together was our pastor saying, hey, we have needed this and we just needed someone to lead it. And for me, it was just writing on there, I want to be involved in this ministry. So it could be a simple step that you take. God's not asking you to be perfect or to have it all together or to know everything. Just similarly to you talking about the 31 and 31, you didn't know when you were going to do this, who all they were. God's not asking us to have all of that like perfected or figured out. He's just asking us to be obedient in it, and he'll take care of that part.
Right. And he has, yeah.
Right. And so that's just, I think sometimes we overthink it, and I'm the first one to do it. And I think that's why this one was such a, hey, well, you have to do it. Because I think the longer that we sit in it, the easier it is for us to talk ourselves out of, oh, well, was that God or was that me? Or I think just being prayerful about it. And if you continue to feel that nudge, then step into what the Lord has and be obedient in it. And He'll take care of everything else.
One of the best ways that I can usually discern whether it's the Holy Spirit guiding me to do something or whether it's me guiding me to do something is the presence or absence of confusion and chaos. Because God is not the author of either of those. And, when you're embarking on something that seems to just constantly have hurdles or challenges, you need to step back from it. In my world, I try to step back from it and get in the Word about it, because He's just not the author of chaos and confusion. And that was one of my arguments again, with this series is that's one way I was gonna know whether He was really in this or whether this was just some wild idea that I had, because it's just fallen into place. I mean, 2 weeks notice to put together 31 episodes and not have any idea who the women were going to be. And there's been zero hurdles. And I don't know, I need to find some wood, to knock on, I guess. But, that's one key way, I think, when you're feeling the call to do something like you guys did with Better Together, all the doors just kept opening. They just kept opening, and been very little chaos or confusion, involved in it. And I think that's one way that. So thank you all for stepping into that calling. We've been blessed by it. Second thing, word of encouragement to the young married couple, whether it's newlyweds, whether it's engaged, whether it's 5 years, let's talk to that young couple. What's the best advice or best word of encouragement you can give to that young married couple?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I feel like I have an arsenal of things that I could start pulling. But I think the most important thing is remembering, it's kind of cliche, but going back and remembering why you guys got together in the first place, because it's easy for us to fall into the trap of what you see on social media and how other people are, or how other people present themselves, or my marriage doesn't have this and doesn't have that, or seeing where your partner is lacking. And remember, and going back and thinking, why did we enter into this union to begin with? What was it that brought us together? That always kind of helps bring me a foundation. And then the other thing, one of the things that we learned in our pre-marriage counseling, I guess I'll have two things that we learned in pre-marriage counseling. One, and I always reference this, is you can't argue how someone feels. So if I did something without meaning to, but I hurt Logan's feelings, if his feelings were hurt, I can't argue that. I can't argue how he feels about that. It's my responsibility to say, okay, I know I didn't mean to do it that. How do I do that better the next time? Or how do I approach this without hurting him? And then the other thing is, if I'm focused on serving him and he's focused on serving me, both of our needs are being met and we're both being there for each other. So that's a lot of times, if we're in a disagreement or if we're not seeing eye to eye on something or whatever it is, I always try to go back and say, okay, what can I do for him? Okay, is he has a busy day or has a busy week this week at work? How can I help him? So trying to think of ways of serving him. And then it just kind of almost makes the fights and things go away, so to speak. I know there's certain things we have to talk through and work out, but I don't know, makes them not as important when you're focused on how can I serve this individual that the Lord has brought into my life to be a partner. So
great advice. Great advice. Let's close and let's do this in kind of a unique way.
Okay.
I love the Spanish language. And I think it would just really warm my heart for us to hear your favorite scripture that you want to share today as a closing for our episode, both in English and Spanish. Would you be willing to do that for us?
Yeah. So the English part, it's a pretty easy verse. And when this came up, it's my favorite verse. And I was like, oh, I need to think of something, profound and special. And I couldn't come up with anything. The Lord just kept saying, like, this is it. And it makes sense to what we're talking about. So my favorite verse is Isaiah 6:8. And it just says, here I am, send me. And it's at letting the Lord know I'm here, whatever it is that you're calling me to do, I'm here for it. So, and we will do it in Spanish. So it is, a quien enviara y a quien ira por nosotros. Entonces respondí yo, heme aquí, envíame a mí. So,
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that. Thanks for taking your lunch hour today to spend time with us. I really appreciate it. It's a wonderful conversation. And again, for those that would like to get involved in Better Together, reach out on the Findlay Baptist Church social media. And that's the Findlay Baptist Church, Tennessee. There is another Findlay Baptist Church in another state, but you want the one that's in Tennessee, Findlay, Tennessee. Reach out there as well, or you can message me here at the podcast Facebook page, and I can put you directly in touch with the Lumleys too. So thanks again so much for sharing your hour with us. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks for joining in today for this episode of the 31 in 31 series, a month of conversations with Proverbs 31 women here at the Authentically You Network podcast. We look forward to yet another great episode tomorrow and hope that you will join us to be inspired, encouraged, and have your faith strengthened. Have a great day and be blessed.